The predator's claws scraped against the steel floor with a sound that made the air itself flinch. 6 glowing eyes narrowed, her serrated jaws parting in a slow, deliberate snarl. Every alien officer in the Imperial command chamber leaned back in silent awe. This was their war champion, their planet breaker, the apex of engineered combat evolution. And yet, the small human woman in front of her just tilted her head, her messy ponytail sliding over one shoulder, and asked with an almost bored voice, "Do you want to try that again?" The pause that followed was so thick you could practically set it on fire. Somewhere in the back, an alien scribe dropped his stylus. Grand Strategist Vurok of the Zircon Empire took a moment to savor the scene. Humans were a minor frontier species, barely worth the ink on their subjugation orders. The Empire had rolled over 100 worlds without breaking stride. A single human colony had resisted for exactly 9 hours before begging for surrender terms. 9 hours, Vurok had been in the middle of a nap. And yet, the reports from the Outer Rim were troubling. This Earth had not only rejected Imperial governance, but had allegedly mocked it. The humans had broadcast something called a diss track aimed at the Emperor himself, involving, as far as Vurok understood, a yo mama insult and an unfortunate comparison to a garden pest. So, the Empire sent the Predator. The undefeated champion. The terror of 8 sectors. Her arrival was supposed to break Earth's spirit. Instead, this girl was standing here in an oversized jacket and sneakers, looking like she'd just wandered out of a coffee shop and gotten lost on the way to her seat at the intergalactic comedy night. "You misunderstand, human," the Predator hissed, her voice like steel dragged over bone. "This is not a conversation. This is your annihilation." The girl, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kane of the Terran Defense Fleet, leaned against the bulkhead as if gravity was an optional setting. Cool speech. Real final boss energy. But here's the thing, Kitty, she pushed off the wall, strolled past the stunned Imperial guards, and tapped the Predator's armored chest plate twice. "We don't do annihilation. We do customer complaints. And right now? You're about to get the full refund." Somewhere in orbit above the Imperial command vessel Dominance of Stars, Admiral Steve Rourke grinned from behind his coffee mug. "Is she actually poking it?" he asked, glancing at his bridge crew. "Yes, sir," replied Ensign Patel, without looking out from his console. "And according to my readings, the Predator's heart rate just spiked by about 20 beats per minute." "Perfect," Steve said. "Initiate operation, loud neighbors." Every alien comms channel in the system suddenly crackled to life, not with coded military chatter, but with the unmistakable pounding bass line of a 1990s Earth rave track. The bass drop hit like an orbital bombardment. Alien officers all over the fleet ripped off their headsets in confusion as human voices shouted things like "drop it," and "who's ready to party?" Vurok blinked. "What is this? Is this music?" A junior officer, his mandibles twitching in discomfort, said, "It has no harmonic structure, strategist. It is pure chaos." "That's the point," Steve's voice cut in over their own encrypted channel. "You want war? We'll give you a block party you'll never forget." Back in the chamber, Sarah smirked as the Predator's head twitched to the rhythm despite herself. "Careful," she said. "You might accidentally enjoy this. Then you'll have to list it on your battle report." Vurok's patience frayed. "Enough of this farce. Deploy the Annihilation Fleet." From his flagship, Steve took a long, deliberate sip of coffee. "Counterpoint, we deploy the HOA." On cue, hundreds of small Terran corvettes decloaked around the Imperial vessels, not in battle formation, but in what looked disturbingly like a circular parking lot pattern. Every single one began broadcasting on an open channel, complaining. Static, then, "Yeah, hi, I'm calling about the noise level from your ship. My plants are wilting." Another voice, "Your fleet's blocking my sun. Move it." And then, "This is Karen from Sector 4, your engines are leaking plasma onto our driveway." Alien captains stared at their comm screens in silent horror. None of the transmissions were threats. None were military in nature. But the sheer volume of complaints, the legalistic tone, and the endless demand for compensation was more disorienting than a nuclear strike. Sarah folded her arms, meeting the Predator's glare. "See, you guys like big, scary weapons. We like weaponized bureaucracy. Guess who wins in the long run?" The Predator growled low, her claws flexing. "You mock the Empire?" Sarah's grin widened. "Not yet. That's next week's operation." Up in orbit, Steve tapped the edge of his console. "All right, people. Phase 2. Make it weird." Patel glanced over. "Define weird, sir." Steve winked. "Surprise me." And just like that, the real retaliation began. The Predator's ears twitched as the first wave of weird hit. Somewhere in orbit, a Terran corvette began broadcasting what could only be described as cow sounds. Slow, deliberate, echoing across every Imperial frequency. "Is that livestock?" one alien comm officer whispered, his voice trembling. It got worse. The next corvette blasted a loop of Earth children chanting, "Are we there yet?" in perfect synchronization. Another ship transmitted the sound of a single dripping faucet. The psychological effect was immediate. Imperial crews squirmed in their seats, unable to unhear the relentless rhythm. Steve sipped his coffee. You'd be amazed how many alien civilizations have zero tolerance for mild inconvenience. Patel checked his readouts. "Sir, Predator's vitals are unstable." "She's questioning her career choices." "Good. Keep going." In the Imperial command chamber, Vurok slammed a fist onto the table. "Shut them out. Jam their signals." A technician worked frantically. "Sir, I'm trying, but they're bouncing signals off our own communications relays. We're amplifying their nonsense." Sarah leaned casually against the Predator's massive forearm like she was leaning on a bar counter. "Funny thing about humans, we never agreed war had to be all shooting and explosions. Sometimes we just move in next door and start playing the drums at 2 a.m. The Predator snarled, finally swinging her arm to knock Sarah across the room, but Sarah ducked effortlessly, letting the claws slice harmlessly through the air. "Missed," Sarah said brightly. "Want to try that again?" Vurok's mandibles clicked in rage. "Enough. Arm the planetary devastators." The Predator's voice was a guttural growl. "With pleasure." Steve's voice came through every Imperial speaker at once. "Cool. While you're doing that, we'll just send over a few gifts." Dozens of Terran drones zipped through the Imperial fleet, not weapons, but delivery pods. Each one smacked onto a hull and popped open, releasing hundreds of small, bright yellow balloons. The balloons weren't dangerous. They weren't even sticky. They just floated, everywhere. On the bridge of the dominance of stars, balloons drifted across control panels, blocked viewports, and tangled in alien antennae. A pilot tried to wave them away, only to find they'd been printed with unsettling human phrases like, "Property of Steve." "Smile, you're losing." "You can't win, we've already ordered pizza." The Empire's fleet discipline began to fracture. Captains shouted contradictory orders, crews swatted balloons, and one ship accidentally rammed a neighbor while trying to blow them out an airlock. Sarah was still inside the command chamber, unfazed. She tapped her earpiece. "Hey, Steve, status?" Steve chuckled. "Let's just say their fleet formations now look like a kindergarten birthday party run by a sugar addict." Vurok's voice rose in pitch, something no one in the chamber had ever heard before. "Destroy them now. Fire on the Terran ships." "Oh," Patel muttered. "Sir, they're charging main weapons." "Perfect," Steve said. "Release the decoys." In less than 2 seconds, hundreds of inflatable ducks popped into existence in the middle of space. Bright yellow, cartoonishly smiling, and each one broadcasting a signal identical to a Terran warship. The Imperial fleet's targeting systems went into meltdown, locking onto toys instead of actual ships. One alien gunner hesitated, staring at his screen. "Strategist, I cannot fire on this. It is, smiling at me. It is a weapon. Vurok roared. It quacks, the gunner said softly. The predator turned back to Sarah, her claws twitching with barely restrained rage. You think this is war? Sarah grinned. Nah. This is foreplay. You'll know it's war when Steve starts sending bread recipes. Vurok's breathing had become ragged. The Empire's proud battle fleet, armed with planet-cracking weapons, was flailing against balloons and ducks. And the humans hadn't fired a single lethal shot. Sarah tilted her head. Tell you what. I'll give you one last chance to leave. No shame in it. Well, okay, there's some shame. We'll probably make a documentary. Vurok slammed the override on his console. Predator, tear this human apart. The Predator lunged. And the chamber lights flickered. From orbit, Steve's voice was a whisper over the open channel. All right, folks. Phase 3. Every Imperial ship's environmental controls suddenly activated, and began pumping in the smell of freshly baked cookies. The entire fleet froze. Predators didn't know why their hearts were racing. Commanders didn't know why their stomachs twisted with hunger. Crews didn't know why the thought of battle felt less urgent. Patel smirked. Sir, their weapons charge just dropped by 40%. Of course it did, Steve said. Nobody fights their best on an empty stomach. Back in the chamber, Sarah took a deep breath of the warm, sweet air. Ah. Smells like victory. The Predator blinked, actually hesitating mid-attack. And in that hesitation, everything began to unravel for the Empire. The Predator froze mid-swing, her nostrils flaring as the warm scent of cookies wrapped around her like a memory she didn't know she had. Her claws lowered an inch. What is this smell? Sarah's grin widened. That, my friend, is called home. You wouldn't understand. The Predator's pupils narrowed. She caught herself, snapping her jaws shut before the thought could escape. Vurok slammed his hands down. Ignore it. Destroy her. Destroy them all. But his voice cracked, and his eyes kept darting toward the corridor, toward the faintest whiff of cinnamon drifting in from the ventilation system. Up in orbit, Steve leaned back in his chair. They've taken the bait. Bring in the resonator. Patel blinked. We're really doing that, sir. Steve sipped his coffee, calm as a monk in a hurricane. Oh, we're doing it. Moments later, a single, unmarked Terran vessel emerged from behind the moon. No weapons, no shields, just a big metal dish on its front, pointed straight at the Imperial fleet. It began to hum. Sarah could hear it even inside the command chamber, a low, hypnotic vibration that seemed to settle in your bones. The Predator stiffened. What is that? Sarah shrugged. A little something we cooked up in the garage. Works on 98% of known species. The hum grew into a pulse, slow and steady, syncing with heartbeats across the fleet. Monitors in the command chamber flickered, alien officers swaying in their seats. Somewhere deep in the brain, survival instincts began to misfire. Muscles relaxed. Alertness dropped. And into that moment of collective vulnerability, the humans struck. Not with weapons. With content. Every Imperial display lit up at once, broadcasting old Earth commercials, viral videos, and, inexplicably, a 20-minute loop of a golden retriever wearing sunglasses and driving a convertible. What is this nonsense? Vurok demanded, but his voice lacked force. His officers were watching, actually watching, dogs on surfboards, people falling over on ice, and a cooking show involving something called deep-fried butter. Steve's voice floated in, maddeningly casual. See, the resonator doesn't just mess with your neural patterns. It primes your brain for dopamine addiction. Then we feed you our entertainment. And you can't stop watching. Sarah's eyes locked with the Predator's. We're not here to kill you. We're here to make you binge-watch until your empire collapses from sheer lack of productivity. The Predator's breathing grew shallow. She was still fighting it, but the laughter of an alien officer in the corner betrayed the truth. A seven-limbed tactical advisor was giggling uncontrollably at a video of a toddler arguing with a goose. Vurock's mandibles clacked in panic. "Shut it down. Shut it all down." A technician shook his head slowly. "Sir? I just need to see how this ends." On the bridge of the dominance of stars, chaos reigned. Entire crews had abandoned stations, huddled around screens showing cooking fails, parkour stunts gone wrong, and something humans called cat compilations. The proud, disciplined Imperial Navy was dissolving into a galaxy-spanning procrastination party. Steve's grin was shark-like. "They think war is about firepower. We know it's about attention span." Patel raised an eyebrow. "And their attention span is about to hit zero," Steve finished. Back in the chamber, the Predator's claws twitched uselessly at her sides. You're using laughter as a weapon." "Not just laughter," Sarah said, stepping closer. "We've got nostalgia, curiosity, and mild schadenfreude. And once it's in your head, you need more." Vurock's voice broke entirely now. "Pull the fleets back. Pull them." Too late. The Resonator's feed had shifted again, this time to a human game show called Wipeout. An alien captain on the far side of the chamber actually gasped, then leaned forward, utterly forgetting his duties. The Predator took a stumbling step back. She was sweating now, jaw clenched, fighting the pull of the feed. "This is dishonorable." Sarah shrugged. "So is invading a planet because you didn't like our flag design. We all make choices." Steve's voice came over the speakers once more, this time slow and deliberate. "Empire of Zerka, your fleet is now under the jurisdiction of Earth's Department of Leisure and Poor Life Decisions. You are hereby sentenced to endless distraction." The chamber went dead quiet, except for the faint sound of an alien engineer snorting at a video of a raccoon stealing an entire bag of chips. The Predator's eyes flicked to Vurock. His mandibles were slack. His authority was gone. The mighty empire was unraveling, over memes. Sarah took one last step forward, her voice low but razor-sharp. "This is your last chance. Pull back now, or by next week, you'll be quoting our sitcoms." The Predator opened her mouth to respond. But the Resonator's tone shifted again. Something deep, ancient, and unstoppable bloomed in her chest. "The Empire's will to fight shattered like glass." The Predator stood frozen, claws trembling, as the Resonator's final frequency washed over her. It wasn't music. It wasn't noise. It was Earth sitcom laugh tracks. Layered, remixed, and looping with surgical precision. At first, it was irritating. Then disorienting. Then, without warning, utterly disarming. The cadence of the laughter, the pauses, the weirdly specific timing, it bypassed pride and clawed straight into the brain's primitive need to join in. A ripple moved through the Imperial command chamber. Stiff-backed officers started chuckling. Then giggling. Then outright cackling at nothing at all. Vurock slammed his fists against the console. "This is psychological warfare." Sarah tilted her head. "Nope. This is called a studio audience. Congratulations, you're the punchline." Up in orbit, Steve nodded to Patel. Phase 4. Without firing a shot, the Terran fleet deployed their final payload, thousands of small pods that latched onto Imperial ships and began projecting giant holograms into space. They weren't threats. They weren't demands. They were memes. Across the void, the Empire's proud armada was suddenly covered in floating captions like "Galaxy's most overrated," "Lost to balloons," "Property of Earth HOA," and, on Vurock's flagship, Vurock's party barge, "Bring your own snacks." The Imperial crews were trapped between the Resonator's hypnotic laughter and the visual humiliation plastered across their fleet. Any remaining discipline evaporated. The Predator finally dropped to one knee, her breathing ragged. "Enough, enough. Call it off." Vurock spun toward her, horrified. "You would surrender?" Her eyes burned with fury and shame. This is not a battle we can win. Sarah stepped forward, her voice calm but merciless. Smart move. You walk away now, maybe you keep a shred of dignity. She paused, smirking. Not much, but hey, better than a compilation video. In the fleet, Imperial ships began breaking formation, engines flaring as they turned tail. The proud dominance of stars, the jewel of the Empire, drifted away under a giant holographic sticker reading "Steve was here." Vurock's voice was a strangled hiss. This is not over. Steve's voice cut in, casual as ever. Oh, it's over. And just to make sure everyone knows, we're live streaming this to every major news network in the galaxy. Smile for the camera, Vurock. Vurock looked up, too late. A drone hovered inches from his face, its lens blinking red. Somewhere far away, billions of beings were watching the once feared grand strategist swatting uselessly at a camera while a laugh track roared in the background. Sarah tapped her earpiece. Steve, I think we're done here. Almost, Steve replied. Just one last touch. A final pulse from the resonator went out, not to disable, not to distract, but to embed. Every Imperial ship's onboard AI now carried a hidden package, the complete library of Earth sitcoms, set to autoplay on every internal screen at random intervals, forever. The Predator's shoulders slumped. You've cursed us. Sarah winked. We call it a subscription service. The retreat became a rout. The once unstoppable Zircon Empire limped away from Earth's system, battered not by weapons, but by sheer, weaponized absurdity. In the silence that followed, Steve opened a fleet-wide channel. To all Earth citizens, the invasion has been postponed indefinitely. Turns out the enemy has binge-watching to do. Back on Earth, news anchors tried to report the victory while suppressing laughter. Across the galaxy, memes of Vurock's defeat spread faster than any war bulletin ever had. The phrase "Do you want to try that again?" became an interstellar punchline. Later that day, Steve made one final broadcast, this time, directly to the Empire's capital. His face filled every screen in their central square. Dear Zircon Empire, he began, holding a coffee mug with "World's Best Neighbor" printed on it. Thanks for stopping by. Next time you want to conquer us, bring cookies. And maybe a Netflix password. He raised the mug in a mock salute. Earth out. The feed cut. The mic drop was complete.